Hi, this is Mike Ellick, and we're going to be looking at the Fuji X100T. I think it's the third in the X100 series. You're wondering why I have this camera in the case, and it's because I do. To get the camera out of the case, it's a little bit different. You flip up. It's a little magnetic catch. Just flip up, and the case comes off this way. It's very good because you can snap the case off of the front of the case. You can remove it. And it has a little catch on the end, a little button on the end. Unsnap this and you can remove the battery and the memory card if you have to. Although it's not a perfect fit. So you're going to have to get under there and pry that door open. Oh, there we are. Now it opened up. Then you can remove the battery and you can remove the memory card. It uses a SD card, including the higher capacity ones. This is a 32 gigabyte, but I think you can go up to, what, I think 128 maybe? I'm not sure. So this is the camera. The lens cap is actually quite it's quite a tight fit. There's a ring of felt around the inside of the lens cap, and I think when you pull it off the lens, because it's so smooth, the lens cap will probably has a tendency to fly out of your hand and land who knows where. So we'll put that away for the moment. As you can see, the design is rather retro. It has a very unique optical LCD hybrid viewfinder. On the top of the camera, you can see the controls, your shutter speed selector, including automatic, with speeds running from 1/4000th down to 1 second, plus B and T, or T and B in this case. T is time, which means you press the shutter once to open it, press it again to close it, and B means it will stay open. The shutter will stay open as long as you hold your finger on the release. There's an on-off switch right here, a user-defined function button, exposure and compensation wheel, and on the back are your usual controls. You also have on the side the controls for your focus, where you can do single focus. Single autofocus is you press the shutter release, it achieves focus, locks it, bang. Continuous autofocus means the camera is always trying to autofocus, even if you aren't holding the camera. I think this tends to run the battery down a little bit, so I find that single autofocus is the best. However, some situations you might want to use the continuous. Manual focus means you focus the camera using the small focusing ring on the front of the camera. You can also change the aperture. As you can see, there's two small tabs on either side of the lens. You can put it on fully automatic, and this on automatic, and let the camera use a program to decide what are the best shutter speed and aperture combinations. Generally, what it will do is it will go for the highest shutter speed to reduce camera shake, or reduce blurring from any shaking of the camera, any movement of the camera. There's a small built-in flash, and I mean small. There's a hot shoe, which I assume will take a proprietary flash that Fuji sells. The back of the camera has your usual controls. This is known as a D-pad, four-way controller with an acknowledgement OK button in the middle. This Q has a special setting. It allows you quick access to all of the camera's major settings. Drive, I have to look again. I don't really recall what this does. I think it allows you to change whether you shoot a single image, change whether you want to shoot multiple images at once, a series of images, low and high speed, quick panorama, and several other functions. This often is how you back out of a menu item when you're in it. You can set up Wi-Fi. You can also, this is a delete button for trashing your images. When you want to review your images, the photos that you took, here's your little play button. And this is the view mode. This allows you to change between the LCD screen on the back, if you want to take all your photos, composing your photos and such using the LCD screen, or let you switch to the viewfinder. And there are three options. One is LCD only, which means you only use this. Second is eye sensor, which means this stays on until you bring the camera to your eye, in which case it switches. This turns off and the viewfinder mode switches on. And viewfinder only, which means you really want to use just the viewfinder entirely. What you use depends on how you want to use the camera. So I've turned on the camera, and let's just switch this to, see, you can see how it says eye sensor, and we change it again. What does that say? LCD only, and you can't see it, but it says viewfinder only because it's in the viewfinder. Let me show you something that's I think very important. One is this Q button. As I told you, this helps you change the major settings, so let's press that Q button, and you can see how you can get to the various functions. If you're in the menu and you want to take a photo, just tap on the shutter release and it'll switch back to your composing photo taking mode. So use your D-pad left or right to scroll up or down. Now to make changes in a particular item, so let's say we want to change the ISO, you use this little wheel right here. You see how that moves it up and down at the same time? If you go deeper into the menu, you can turn off your prompts, you can turn off beeps and sounds, you can put it into a silent mode, you know, whatever you prefer. So right now it's set for ISO 200. We'll leave it 400 as a default. That's a pretty decent number, and we'll just turn this off. You can change your aspect ratio. Right now it's set to 3:2, but if I wanted to shoot at 16:9, it's just a matter of turning this little wheel up here. And there's several different levels of compression. There's low compression, and then there's standard compression, medium. Put it on low and you'll get the best image quality. Fine, again, is the once again, that also has to do with the image quality. Fine is probably your best setting. And then you can change, you can move into things such as film emulation modes, which I don't think you have to worry about, and well, just a number of other settings. One of the more interesting things is the viewfinder. There are 3 different views through the viewfinder. One is just the normal view in which you peer through the viewfinder. 2, there is a second option which you purely use the electronic viewfinder. And third is sort of a hybrid. It will show you the electronic view in the lower right-hand corner. It will show you the electronic view as well in a small, like, little thumbnail portion. It's controlled by this little lever right here. Pushing it toward the lens will give you the tiny little thumbnail view in the lower right corner. And if you pull toward the end of the camera, it switches between electronic only, and if you see, there's a little blind that slides into place. You see that? When it's electronic only, it covers up the optical portion of the viewfinder. What's the difference? I think sometimes if you're in lower light or bright light, sometimes it's better to work with the optical, sometimes it's better to work with the electronic. It's really something you have to try and, you know, see what works best for you. Now the third thing that happens is if you're focusing manually, for example, and you want a very magnified view in your viewfinder to be able to focus, what you have to do is you press the small wheel. Pressing the small wheel then magnifies the view in the viewfinder. A word about the optical viewfinder is that it overlays on top of the image that you see, the direct view, because you're actually seeing it right through, and you can even see. You can see right through the other side. What it does is it overlays onto the image all of the pertinent information about your photo, the shutter speed, your ISO, I think whether you have white balance dialed in, exposure compensation, your aperture. It displays all that information in the viewfinder. I find it actually to be a very interesting way to provide the photographer with that information. I think you'll find that this camera is a very lightweight camera compared with other cameras, and it's reasonably small. Fuji is built into it. Let me unsnap it and I'll show you out of the case, totally out of the case. Fuji is built into the front a very small grip for the hand if you use it out of the case. Some cameras, of course, have a more pronounced grip, particularly the SLRs, you know, which make it easier to hold. But I find this to be more of a classic design. You can now see the small rounded the front protrusion in the front. And you know, it's really a handsome camera. I think they've built a very high quality camera. This appears to be a metal top deck, metal bottom plate, and very well made, very well made. There's no flex to it. The one thing about the LCD is that it's not articulating. You know, it doesn't pull out, it doesn't tilt up. So just keep that in mind. I would describe this as a specialist camera in that it's a fixed lens. That is, you cannot change the lens, and it's not a zoom. With the focus factor built in, it's roughly a 45 millimeter lens. It's fast, f2.0. There's a lens shade that you can buy. It's, you know, more money. Personally, I think all manufacturers should include a lens shade, but some do, some don't. And that is a quick run through of the Fuji X100T.